Greetings, Dennis Fair, retired member of the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C., serving 29 years straight of uninterrupted service, retiring June the 8th of 2019 at age 50. Every opinion and comment that I give is based on my experience. I'm not affiliated with any law enforcement agency, so what you get is coming directly from me and my experience. And I am not a counselor, I'm not an attorney, however, I probably could be an attorney easily as far as giving advice, but that's a whole nother topic. I'm going to go into some topics. Of course, I know everybody's mind is probably burning up in reference to the shootings, the mass shootings. And that's not what I'm going to discuss today because I have a lot to add to that, and it's a lot to process. I'm really used to death, if that makes sense, and it's unfortunate based on my occupation, but child death is on a whole nother level. Although I'm experienced with death, from family members passing to work-related deaths as far as co-workers and also just death in part of the occupation, homicides and things like that. But a child's death hits harder. It's a much different situation, but I am going to discuss the mass shootings in reference to what's taking place currently. I will just go into it briefly, and I'll say this just as a as a introduction in reference to that. A lot of people asking, did the police drop the ball? Absolutely. I will say that part, at least go that far. The police dropped the ball. Absolutely. And what I mean by that, before I go into this topic, I'm going to go into the topic of rim and tire theft in reference to vehicles being stripped of their tires and rims in the DMV area, and also not just DMV area, it's happening all over the United States. And as far as what you can do you can't necessarily eliminate it totally, but you can make it difficult for individuals. But I'm going to go into that. But before I get into that, the chief of police, in reference to the situation where all the children were killed in reference to the mass shooting, didn't even have his police radio. Yeah. I'm going to go much deeper than that when I do that video in reference to that, but it's a lot to process to see little caskets with Superman and Batman and whatever the children like. I have a child myself, but my daughter's 25. I put myself in a position, what would I do if that was my child? How would I process that? That's a very difficult situation to even imagine as far as the parents, but some things, can be prevented and some things can't. But when you got a chief of police, and a lot of times higher officials in law enforcement are very, very relaxed. I've seen it myself, especially with the Metropolitan Police Department. I don't have any cut cards. I'm not affiliated with any agency or anything like that. So, of course, some law enforcement officials from the Metropolitan Police Department will see this video if they watch, or maybe somebody will forward to them. They might get upset. And most people know that I could care less because it's the truth. You have a lot of high-ranking officials that do get promoted, and a lot of them are very knowledgeable when it comes to book sense, but as far as law enforcement and actually policing, absolutely clueless. We have individuals that spent their whole career in administrative part of the department, Metropolitan Police Department. Now, don't get me wrong, there needs to be people that can do administrative work within the Metropolitan Police Department or any law enforcement agency. However, I don't think that they need to be police officers. They should be civilians. People that are not police officers, give them those high-paying jobs to do time and attendance. You don't need someone that's making that kind of money that's just upstairs pushing paperwork all day. You want to be a police officer? Be a police officer. That can be eliminated since it's so much, so many issues in reference to cutting the budget and things like that. Get some of these police officers back on the street, as far as that's concerned. But before I go there, the chief of police didn't have a police radio. So when this initially shooting started to take place in reference to the one that just happened, they're happening so often it's hard to unfortunately keep track. But in reference to all of the children killed, he didn't have a police radio. So that happens on a regular basis. A lot of your chiefs, high-ranking Metropolitan Police Department officials, I've experienced it myself. A lot of times high-ranking officials didn't have handcuffs or didn't have a handcuff key. Hey, Fair, can I borrow your handcuff key? Fair, you got some cuffs. That's unfortunately a normal part once they become high ranking. A lot of officials, not all, you have a lot of high ranking officials that actually policed and still will lock you up in a heartbeat if it's deemed necessary. So it's not all high ranking officials, but a lot of them don't have radios. They don't wear their vest a lot of times. And if you think I'm fabricating, next time you see some of these high-ranking officials on the news doing these press conferences, a lot of times I call them political press conferences, just get a real good look. Most of them are not even wearing vests, bulletproof vests. Now, a lot of times your chiefs and your assistant chiefs, a lot of them feel that for whatever reason they can't be shot. But that's a lack of. You're too relaxed. You're too comfortable in the position. You still have that uniform on, and yes, you can get killed just as quick as an officer. But a lot of times when they reach that position as a chief or lieutenant or captain, they stop wearing the bulletproof vest. They stop wearing body armor. They get relaxed. A lot of times they drive around in marked vehicles, unmarked vehicles. Most of the times, common sense, what an unmarked police vehicle looks like, even if the windows are tinted out. But a lot of them just don't. And they don't, in most cases, have a police radio a lot of times. So they'll go to the scene or something and they'll have the department-issued cellular phone, which, okay, if you can't get a signal, you're going to always be able to turn that police radio on unless the battery's dead and call a 1033, which is a officer in trouble, or, break the radio air and say that you got a shooting going on as far as a mass shooting in the so-and-so school or whatever. We need to get everybody, we need to set a perimeter. But this particular chief, in reference to the children, did not have a police radio. He had to actually use a cell phone, call, and then transpire what was going on, which is, if you can get a signal, or anything can happen at that time. But he had to actually do that. He didn't have his police radio. If you're the chief of police, you should have your radio with you at all times. If you go to the store, you should have it with you. But that's a whole nother topic. Before I really get into that, and like I said, I've seen it for myself with the Metropolitan Police Department. A lot of officials have these high-ranking positions and they don't know jack. And I got no problem saying a lot of them get upset. The ones that get upset with this video, those are the ones that don't know jack. I had a lieutenant one time actually pull an individual over for passing a red light. You can't write a warning ticket for that. He was getting ready to write a warning ticket. I told him, I said, Lieutenant, what was his name? I won't even call his name. But because he actually returned as a senior, I believe he's a senior sergeant at the Metropolitan Police Department 2nd District, which I'm not going to call his name and then put him out there on Front Street. But he didn't know that he couldn't write a warning ticket as a red light. And I explained to him, I did traffic, so that was my forte. I explained to him, look, Lou, you can't write a warning ticket for a red light. He said, Fad, you sure? And I'm looking, I really want to say, I've been doing traffic my whole career. I do this every night. But I didn't do it. I said, yes, sir, you can't do that. Can't write a ticket. So he didn't write it, but he ended up writing a real red light ticket. And the reason he wanted to write a warning ticket, because if you write a warning ticket, if the individual contests the ticket, that means you don't have to go to BTA, Bureau of Traffic Adjudication. That's where you go to contest the ticket. Somebody writes your ticket, you want to contest it? Hey, I fill out this little paperwork, mail it in, and then whoever wrote the ticket, the officer, lieutenant, captain, regardless of their rank, they got to show up to the Bureau of Traffic Adjudication. No one wants to really go there in most cases unless you're one of those hard-working officers that actually do traffic and actually do police work. A lot of times, the lieutenants, sergeants, and high-ranking officials will call an officer to the scene to write the ticket, which is a little tricky because the officer that comes didn't see the violation. So that's something on a whole nother level. Again, like I said, I'm going to get into it, but the point I'm making is a lot of the high-ranking officials, once they move up in rank, take the multiple choice tests and move up in rank, and I'm referring to the Metropolitan Police Department, you can move up, but a lot of them don't know anything about actually policing. They know the regulations, the regs, but actually hands-on policing, they're relaxed. They don't wear a lot of body armor. A lot of them don't have their radios with them. A lot of times they just had a department-issued cellular phones, which is cool, but you need a police radio. That you can just immediately clear the air if you got an emergency, say what you got to say, give a description. If you're giving information over the phone, that means somebody on the other end of their phone's got to transpire everything you just said on the police radio from the station or wherever you're calling from. And a lot of times we all know when you tell a person one thing, by the time that individual gets on the radio, it's something else. And it's like, no, I don't want you to go there. Just set the perimeter up this place. However, this individual, if he had had his radio, this chief I'm referring to in reference to the mass shooting, things possibly would have been a lot different. I personally don't think as many children would have been killed if he had his police radio, and instead of saying that they had the individual contained in the school, which they didn't. And I guess the word I really want to use is hesitation. A lot of these individuals that are trained to go into these situations, they're training the AR-15 training. Yeah, you got the training to carry the AR-15 in your scout car or whenever you go out to service. But a lot of these individuals that carry them, and I'm speaking for the Metropolitan Police Department, have no training as far as when it comes to a real live situation. You can go over to the MPD Academy, take the training for a week, shoot the AR-15, qualify to carry it, and things like that. But it's totally different from when you get into a situation where it's a live situation. It's not the academy, it's not the house where you're just pretty much clearing rooms and you're not gonna get killed in it. When it's a real live situation, you see a lot of officers that you didn't know that were really scary, they become scary and they hesitate. And a lot of times that can get you killed. But that's a whole nother subject. I'm getting ready to just go into it. But I'm not going to do it right now because it's a lot to process in reference to those kids and the caskets. That really shook me a little bit because it could have been anybody's kids. And I'm going to go into a video in reference to that as far as to explain to parents what to tell their kids, because the news doesn't tell you anything. The police don't really tell you anything as far as to attempting to avoid these situations. If your kids are being shot at, to run in a zigzag formation and things like that. But I'm going to go into that much deeper. But to give a brief preview, the chief of police actually dropped the ball. Actually, in my opinion, the whole department dropped the ball because they hesitated and they said the individual was contained inside of the school as he was killing kids. How is he contained when no one entered the building to even to see that? The chief doesn't even have a police radio. And a lot of times, like I said it before, Metropolitan Police Department, a lot of chiefs with the Metropolitan Police Department don't carry radios and haven't carried radios. A lot of times you got a flunky driving the chief around or what have you. I don't want to say that, a flunky, that's just wrong, right? I'll say an assistant to the chief, someone who the chief is cool with, driving them around, and that person has the radio in most cases. A lot of times the chief doesn't carry the radio, he's got the phone, or she has the phone, but a lot of times high-ranking officials don't always carry the radio, and that's just a problem. And they don't wear body armor. Why? I don't know, because once you become a chief or high-ranking official, that doesn't mandate you stop wearing body armor. That's just absolutely stupidity in my opinion. But look, let me get off that horse because I'm getting ready to start a ride. Going into the theft of tires and rims, that's something that's been going on. And a lot of times, I don't know if you've noticed it, if you ride through the DMV or any areas, you might ride past on a morning when you're headed to work or just out and about, and you might just ride down the street, you see a vehicle basically on rims, and you might see some colorful plastic. Well, they don't use the milk crates anymore. They actually have the plastic, and they're not crates, but they're actually made for stealing tires. I know that's not actually what they're made for, but most of them are used for that. A lot of times people use them for, when they're working on cars and things of that nature. However, you can order these same yellow things from Amazon or what have you, and that's what they're doing. Years ago, when they did this, they carried center blocks or milk crates. And, when they stole your rims, they dropped your vehicle on those. But now they actually have some real unique ones that, believe it or not, on Amazon that you can purchase if you are into stealing rims and tires. Mostly everything you want when it comes to stealing something is available online. It's no secret. You can get anything you want. But these individuals a lot of times are targeting, a lot of people think, well, it's no big deal to me. I drive a Corolla. Well, those are the vehicles they're targeting. If you have a fairly newer Corolla or new Camry or any vehicle that's in decent condition, you need to be concerned. Because a lot of individuals don't think it'll happen to them. But it's nothing like walking out of your house to go to work or wherever you're getting ready to go, maybe on a Monday morning, Sunday. A lot of times, I'll go into details as far as when these actual theft of tires and rims take place. But it's nothing like going out to your vehicle and your vehicle is sitting on crates. And right then and there, you're going to have to spend some money. Of course, whether you have insurance, that's a whole nother issue. But to have to purchase 4 tires We already know how much tires cost. That's just no secret. And you can try to go to, I'm not going to endorse any stores or anything because they're not paying me for that, but you can try to go to some of your member auto stores that have memberships where a lot of times the tires are a little cheaper. But to buy 4 tires, new tires, when there was really nothing wrong with your tires right off the break, and you need 4 rims, I don't even have to tell you what that's going to cost you. It's going to cost you whether you're driving a Corolla or a Lexus. It's going to cost. So the thing is, what most people don't realize is this is something that law enforcement could target. They could actually catch these individuals. The individuals that are actually stealing tires and rims, it's pretty obvious they're not driving around in a small compact car. That's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious that these things are taking place between 2, 3 in the morning, obviously when individuals are fast asleep. It's not something that's taking place right before daybreak, because a lot of people leave out early in the morning, what have you, to go and commute wherever they have to commute for work, or a lot of people are possibly getting off. So these things actually take place at a certain time of hours of AM hours during the midnight shift. And these individuals, it's no secret if you got a van riding through neighborhoods, a lot of times, you don't want to profile, but in law enforcement, it's just good policing. When you got a vehicle or van riding around 3 or 4 in the morning, no, you don't have to stop them just because they're in a certain neighborhood. However, if you follow the vehicle long enough, they're going to commit a violation, whether it's failing to maintain a lane or they get paranoid, make a right turn without using a hand or mechanical signal. Eventually, you're going to have a reason to pull them over. Now, I'm not saying you just simply going to just profile, but if you got a area that's experiencing a high number of vehicle and rim theft, then proactive policing is what you need. It's not hard to find them, but unfortunately nowadays you got a lot of police officers that are not policing. They're not doing anything but basically answering calls for service. And that's cool, but that's not just what you signed up for. You just signed up for protecting an area. If that's your patrol area and they're constantly taking rims and tires, what are you doing? Nothing? Well, I'm just going to take the report. It's whatever. That's how a lot of officers actually feel. That wasn't my era. However, I can kind of get it because being proactive as far as policing now could cost you your job. If it doesn't look right to the chief of police or the mayor, regardless of whether you were right or not, if you have to rough somebody up that's got a gun on him, you might get the chief on TV saying he was appalled or I can't believe this happened. But the individual had a loaded 9mm on him, chief. I know, but I got to say this for the mayor. Unfortunately, a lot of times, I'm not saying that's what happened, but a lot of times that's what happens. You got to play the political game. That's one of the reasons I chose not to really rise up into the ranks of service, because as you do rise, unfortunately, it becomes a lot of political, and the lies start to flow. And I got a problem with that. It's hard to betray officers that you work with your whole career when you know they're doing the right thing. Now, obviously, if you got a situation like George Floyd, or the situation that was in D.C. where the individual shot the individual on a motorcycle and killed him. I mean, that's a whole nother situation. Believe it or not, the city kind of just like dismissed that, and you didn't really hear a whole lot of outrage. And one thing I've noticed, individuals are extremely forgetful, in some circumstances, in some situations. I thought that they would really make a whole lot of noise about that because it even bothered me. And I'm a police officer, but I have no loyalty to something that's wrong, because it could have been my brother, it could have been me. However, to shoot an individual on a motorcycle because you say he came towards you, come on now. The bottom line is, and I believe this individual was actually allowed to resign. He was not terminated. He was allowed to resign. That means he can get a job somewhere else. And also, this individual, I believe there was a lawsuit. I don't recall exactly how much the city paid out, but basically, it's likely that money is gone. It's gone. It wasn't nothing that you could live off for the rest of your life. They lost a son. And I don't know if this individual had a child or whatever. Somebody lost a father. Either way, they lost a relative. Now, he was, from what I understand, driving a motorcycle reckless and what have you. But you can't shoot an individual on a motorcycle if you're in a police car because he's trying to close the door. Now, from what I understand, they tried to box the individual in on the motorcycle, what have you. However, regardless, the individual on the motorcycle was not armed. So I don't understand how that worked out, but the bottom line is he was allowed to resign. and go on with his life. And then other individuals, as far as the lost a loved one or what have you, yeah, they got the little bit of money. But once you pay taxes and attorney fees, the little bit of money, it was a little bit of money before the attorney fees and all that was paid. So I likely that money is gone, first of all. But people are forgetful in this city. However, back to the situation at hand. In these situations, when you have individuals taking these tires and rims, police a lot of times just overlook it, or they're not policing them, or they're somewhere parked waiting for the next call for service and not actively policing. You can't take tires and rims with a Corolla or a small compact vehicle. These vehicles ride at nighttime. A lot of times they're the single vehicles in these neighborhoods, and most individuals don't have wheel locks on their vehicles. So that's another problem. You figure, why get a wheel locks for a Corolla or a Camry, or it's no big deal. Until you come out there and your four tires and rims are gone, then it's a big deal. A lot of times, some vehicles come with wheel locks, other vehicles don't. And even if you do have wheel locks, they can be broken off and dismantled real quick too, but at least it's going to be difficult. You also can park your vehicle. Obviously, you don't want to park so close to the curb where you scratch your rims, but when the vehicle is parked close to the curb, it's extremely hard to get that vehicle's rim and tire off without, really, it's more difficult. And another thing individuals do, and they're not going to tell you this on the news. That's why, like I say, I tell anyone, subscribe and share, because you're not going to get some of this information on the news. And some things may not apply to you, and they may, but they might apply to somebody else if you share this with. What's been happening is a lot of these vehicles were being broken into, and guess what? Guess where the key to the wheel lock is? It's back with the spare tire. And they just break into the vehicle, get your wheel lock, and they don't even have to break your wheel lock off. You've already left the key to your wheel lock in the area where your spare tire is. It's not hard to find. So what I tell and I try to instruct people to do, first of all, if you don't have wheel locks and you're not driving some hoopty or bucket, that's a slang for old time, beat up vehicle, for those that may not be familiar with the slang. If you don't have one of those vehicles, then you need wheel locks. And also, if you're going to get a wheel lock, I'm not going to endorse any particular manufacturer company because I'm not getting paid for that. However, if there is someone that's interested, you can directly reach out to me in the message area of YouTube, and you send me your email or what have you or something, and I'll directly let you know, because I'm here to help you, not hide information from you. I just don't believe in endorsing companies that I'm not getting paid for. I try to keep things neutral. But the thing is, you need a good wheel lock if you have a fairly decent vehicle, and you know what's decent and what's not. Obviously, if you're driving around and a muffler's dragging, your rims all scratched up, beat up, tires bald, you probably don't have to worry about getting wheel locks. That's just not going to happen. And in that case, you might be lucky if somebody steals your wheels and tires so you can get some new ones if your vehicle is that beat up. But hopefully that's not the case. But again, if you have wheel locks on your vehicle, if you don't, just check. And if you're unsure whether you have wheel locks, the lugs will all look the same except for one. One will have like a triangle diagram for a key that goes into it. So you may not know. Some things you just don't know. That's why, like I say, you watch these videos, you may learn something. You check to see if you've got them. And if you do have them, that's a plus. However, the first thing you want to do, if you do have wheel locks for your vehicles, you need to find out if you know. Some people don't even know. I've been to a lot of shops in reference to dealerships, taking my vehicle in, and I've been in the waiting area, and an individual may come out and say, excuse me, so-and-so or Miss So-and-so, we need your wheel lock. And, female, just looking around like, what's a wheel lock? Oh, ma'am, that's the, key. We need the key, rather, for the wheel lock to get your lug off. We got them all off except for one. She has no clue what that is or where it is. Now, eventually, over time, going through the vehicle and what have you, they find it. But these are things you need to know in case you have to change the tire or call AAA or anyone that you use to, come out for roadside service. Road service, when your vehicle breaks down or whatever, roadside service, what have you. Now, if these people come out and you got a key, you have a wheel lock with no key, of course they can break it, but that's going to cost you an additional money. You need to know what these things are inside of your vehicle. And if you do have them, once you find out where this key is to your wheel lock, you don't need to place this inside of where your spare is. And that's what's been happening. A lot of vehicles are being broken into, and guess what? They get the key to your wheel lock, take it off, no problem. No struggle, no nothing, because the key to your wheel lock is in there with your jack. And what I suggest people do, if you do have a wheel lock and your key, what have you, don't place your key to your wheel lock inside the spare with all of your other stuff as far as your jack and your lug wrench, things like that. Place it somewhere else, and no, don't place it in the glove compartment. If you need, there are a variety of little books and things of that nature that you can put items in. It may look like a holy Bible or some book. Most of the time when people break into these vehicles, I have yet to take a report for books stolen. It's just a lot of times you can have a gun in a book and the individual's not going to even touch that book. You know what I'm saying? And there are books that you can actually have that have secret compartments. Well, it's not actually a book, but it looks like a book. You can put a gun in there. There are things like that, and most people are not going to search through books and things of that nature. But what I suggest, however you do it, do not put your key to your wheel locks where your tire and your lug wrenches are. Put them somewhere under the seat or somewhere, anywhere where it can't be hit, can't be seen or found directly right away. Obviously, they can find anything if they take the time to go through your entire vehicle. However, if you have a key, it just doesn't need to be where your lug wrench, your jack, and your spare tires. And that's been one of the problems with wheel and tire theft. You don't need to break any wheel locks off because the key is inside of the car. And all you got to do is find out wherever that spare is, that's where the key to the lock is. So I'm suggesting that if you have tire locks for your tires and rims, please don't put your key with the spare tire. Do a little hiding or get a little creative with it. Now, obviously, don't leave it at home. Of course, you can leave it at home, but the thing is, if you break down and you need to get that tire off or what have you, or you forget and you're going to have your vehicle serviced and need to rotate your tires or what have you, you're not going to be able to get those tires off if you don't have the key. But I suggest being creative. The key to your wheel lock needs to be in a specific area other than with your tire. Whatever you do, if you got a sunshade case that comes down, maybe that's a good spot. Anywhere but with the tire is. And you can get as creative as you want. You can put it in a lunch bag or a lunch box, whatever. Just as long as it's not, you jingle out, shake it up, they're going to hear it. But just get creative with that. And another issue is they got a spot, which spot did they hit? One of the hotels in Gaithersburg. I don't recall which one. They had a complete field there. They took so many rims, and now the tow truck drivers have the little spares, the 4 spares that they can just put on and, wheel your vehicle up and be towed, and they're making a killing there. But they hit this hotel in Gaithersburg. I'm not sure which one. They took a lot of tires and rims because in most hotels, there's no security in the garage. Now, you have a security guard that patrols the premises as far as inside of the hotel. You might see him walking on floors at night. But most of the hotels, the individuals don't go into the garage. And a lot of times the garages are not part of the hotel property, or the actual parking lot is part of the hotel property. But most of the time, 2 or 3 in the morning, you don't really have individuals coming back and forth to their cars. Once they're in that hotel, they're in that hotel and they don't come back out. So those were very easily vehicles to hit because, about 2 or 3 in the morning, the person that's staying in a hotel or whatever is not coming back randomly at 2 or 3 in the morning. So those are perfect places to actually take tires and rims off vehicles. And now I'm probably sure that they do a little patrolling and with the security, but even then, it's just, you can't be on every level of a hotel or whatever type of parking facility they're using, and they don't mind spending the money to go in or what have you. A lot of times the vehicles that they use in the trucks, whatever, may be stolen or what have you. So getting a tag, good luck with that. If it's even a tag that's a legitimate tag. A lot of times that tag that's on that vehicle might be used one time and then they'll find something else, another tag or vehicle to steal. Also, what happens is you have individuals that, say for example, your vehicle's parked in front of your house or what have you, and you may have an individual pull up with a somewhat higher level SUV, and they're individuals pretending like something is wrong with the vehicle. So their hood is up, but your vehicle is parked in a space. Although they're looking at the hood, they got 2 or 3 other individuals actually taking the tires and rims off your vehicle, which it doesn't look as suspicious because these individuals are pretending like something is wrong with the vehicle. So another vehicle pulls in front of it like they're giving it a jump. You have no idea that there is nothing wrong with the vehicle at hand. You got 2 hoods up, 2 vehicles facing each other, and your vehicle's parked to the curb, and they're taking your rims and tires off. Now, once everything is complete, because they're extremely quick when they do this. This isn't a process they're dragging their feet with. They're professional as NASCAR, and they have a lot of times the power lug nut removers that charged, and just like you would see on a racetrack. And a lot of times you're not hearing all this at night if you're in a deep sleep. They're not that loud, and it depends on what type they're using. And a lot of people sleep heavy, and 3, 2 in the morning on a weekday, you're not going back and forth to the bathroom. Now, me personally, I'm up all night because I worked 29 years straight of midnight shifts. So a lot of times 3 in the morning to me is like 3 in the daytime. So I'm up, I'm watching TV. It's no telling what I'm doing. I'm looking outside. It's just me. But a lot of individuals that have to go to work or get up in the morning may not be into that looking around or checking the back windows. Even if you go to the bathroom periodically at night, I think you should look out your front window, your back window. Just check your surroundings. That's all. Just look out front of your house. You never know. Don't just go right back to the bed. Just check. It doesn't hurt. But these individuals a lot of times will park a vehicle alongside of your parked vehicle where it looks like they're having car trouble. But in reality, they're stealing every tire off your vehicle, and they got another vehicle in front of it. So it looks like somebody just needs a jump. You might look up out the window and be thinking nothing of it. If they're not actually on the side that's closest to the house that where they're actually taking them. And a lot of times it's so quick, you're thinking nothing of it. You don't hear anything, and then once daylight comes, you see these bright yellow cartons. A lot of times, like I said, they're not even milk cartons now. They look actually like they're specifically designed for that purpose. And I'm sure that it's a purpose other than just stealing people's rims and tires, as far as using them for mechanical situations when you're working on the vehicle, what have you. But these individuals are very creative when it comes down to stealing and taking rims and tires. So you have to be just as creative as them, and don't give them the opportunity and make it that easy. Now, some people, and this is what I did when I had a truck with some high-end rims, I actually put 2 wheel locks on each tire. And that's going to cost a little bit more than your average set, and it's a pain because you got to give your mechanic or whoever's doing work on your vehicle, you got to give them 2 keys. You got to find those 2 keys so they can do it. So it's a little bit of a headache, but I'd rather have a little bit of a headache than somebody easily taking some 22-inch rims off my truck. And that's what I had at times, like 20 or 22s. I don't know what they were, but this was some years ago with a Suburban. But you don't want to make this easy for individuals to take your tires and rims. Like I said, a lot of people dismiss, that's not going to happen to me. I got this and that. It's not a problem until it's a problem. And I'm going to tell you, I haven't experienced it, but it's nothing like walking out to your vehicle in the morning or whatever, and you see all 4 of your tires gone and rims, and you got neighbors looking around like, wow. And then all of a sudden, everybody wants to do something, or how did this happen, and everybody's communicate. Don't wait for it to happen to you. Do it. Do something proactive before it happens. And that's what you can do. Get the wheel locks, first of all, if you don't have them. And if you do have them, find out where they are. Because some people don't even know where the wheel locks are, as far as the key, rather. They don't know where the keys are. Find out where the keys are and identify them, and be sure that they actually are the right wheel key that came with the vehicle. So you could put it on there, and it should fit just like a key. You'll know that, okay, this does fit. You can't assume that everything works or it's right for the vehicle if you have never tried it. Now, if it's a brand new vehicle, of course, in most cases, you still need to know where the key to the wheel locks are, because it's new. It may not be back there. Or if it is back there, just put it somewhere other than where it is. Because like I said, I don't want to see somebody come outside and find all their rims and tires and was like, you know what? I watched that video and maybe I should have I should have got some wheel locks, or I should not have placed the key to the wheel lock with the tire. I saw the video. I just didn't think it would happen to me. My neighborhood is cool, safe, or what have you. But now look at me. Yeah, save yourself some money. Get the wheel locks. First of all, if you don't have, get the key and find out where it is. First of all, if you already have it, place it somewhere else other than with the tire, because they're getting vehicles. And a lot of people think they're just breaking wheel locks off, and that is happening too. But a lot of times you don't even have to do that. All you gotta do is break the vehicle's window and go in the vehicle, pop the trunk or what have you, or go through the rear seats. A lot of vehicles are made now, so you don't even have to pop the trunk. You can just go through the rear seats and get back there whatever you need is back there. A lot of times it just takes a little time. And as far as breaking the window, a lot of times people think, well, you would think you would hear the window break or whatever. No, you don't hear the window break. Let me explain to you how that works. A lot of times individuals, as far as theft remodelers, they used to use spark plugs to break the window up. It doesn't make a lot of noise like you think it would. Also, the Phillips, but the flat head screwdrivers. You stick that inside the windowsill and pull it back, you'll hear somewhat of a small pop, and that window shatters. Nobody, like I said, car riding past at the same time, you stick that flathead screwdriver inside that window and pull it and pop that window, you don't hear it at all. Next thing you know, all you got is glass outside that street and 4 missing tires and rims when you come outside in the morning. And it's not a pretty sight. But the thing, like I said, don't make yourself an easy target. Get the wheel locks. Hide your keys to your wheel lock. Don't make it easy. And like I said, if you have property and things like this inside your vehicle, take it out. Don't leave spare change in your console. I've taken many reports for individuals that just simply left spare change inside of the vehicle. A lot of times, oh, officer, why would they break into the vehicle? All I had was $3 here. Yeah, that's $3 that the homeless individual that watched you park didn't have. And a lot of times in the club setting, I've seen so many individuals get out of the car, especially females, get out of the vehicle. They don't want to take their coats in the club. So what do? Find a parking space, pop the trunk, throw their coats in, throw their purses in. There's a guy sitting in the park, to them, he's, homeless and he's not paying attention. He just rocking. He's just sitting there rocking, He's saying that to nobody. Guess what? This guy that's rocking in the park is watching everything you do. He knows you're not going in the club and coming right back out. He's got time to go in the vehicle, get your purses and things like that. It happens so much to the point where a lot of times on club nights, I would go to the club areas and tell the females, don't put your purse back there. And explain to them, because I already knew I couldn't sit there all night because I had other calls for service and I had to actively patrol. But telling them, I'm hoping that at least somebody will listen and I won't have to take that report at 3 in the morning. Because that's when it comes to 3 in the morning, you're getting calls. 21st from M, 24th from K, we got a theft from Auto. Get there, okay, what was taken? Well, I had 4 purses back here. Then you got to go through the process of 4 purses, assorted credit cards, personal papers. These are things that this is the way you write the report out. And a lot of times, these individuals that have, nobody's taking credit cards in the club back then anyway. And most people a lot of times may take their debit card in there, what have you, some cash, but nobody's taking everything in there. A lot of times the other credit cards, other than identification, they're taking it to the club. But every credit card, Visa, Social Security card, some people still carry the Social Security cards with them. All that's gone. So I got to take this report, fill out everything that was taken. Okay, all types of U.S. currency. You got to list that. Even if they say that they don't really know, they'll have to give you a guesstimate as far as to what was taken. You got to do the value of the property that was taken. One black in color wallet and what have you. Got to ask them, well, what did you pay for, things like that. It's really a very long process when you got to do this about 6 times a night, because there are other people. As soon as you clear this report, got another one at so-and-so and so-and-so near the other club. You got another one at so-and-so and so-and-so club. You got this one at this club. And a lot of times in most of these clubs, you'll have maybe 7 or more at one club, and then another club you got more. So that's tying up all your calls for service, because you got officers taking reports all night. And a lot of times it can just be prevented if you use a little better judgment as far as not leaving items in your car that are valuable. And they may not be valuable to you, but to somebody that doesn't have anything, Yeah, that $3. What's the worst thing happen? They catch me breaking in and smacking this window out for $3. I get locked up and I get a meal. I get out of this cold. You know, a lot of times the homeless individual or the individual that's got a substance problem is not tripping off getting locked up because in most cases they've been there. You know, I had an individual actually that was so proficient with being arrested. You know, and me and him used to talk from the neighborhood. And, you know, he just recently passed. But the thing about it is me and him talked all the time. And he would say, man, you know, DC jail is trash. Now, I know people probably saw the whole DC jail thing about, you know, how the conditions as far as DC jail. But he told me that years ago. He said, man, you know, if I got to get locked up, I prefer Maryland. He said, Maryland jails are nice. Now, that's kind of some really conditioned thinking. You know, at that point, you're pretty much conditioned, you know, to be in the criminal justice system on the other side. Because when you say the Maryland jails are nice, you know, you got some issues. You've basically been conditioned to the criminal justice system, you know, which isn't cool, but that was his lifestyle. So what he was happy with as far as going to a Maryland jail, he was just as happy as me living in a home. He just told me, he said, man, DC jails is trash. They dirty, they this and that. He said, Maryland is nice. The food is good. And I'm looking like, the food is good. You know, but hey, everybody's mindset is totally different. He's conditioned for jail. You know what I'm saying? That's unfortunate, but that was his way of life. He was just as comfortable going to jail as you going home or going to work. He is used to, as they call it, the slang term, he used to jailing. He knows how to jail. He's used to it. So going to jail for him is not necessarily a bad thing when he was living. But that's something on the whole nother topic. But again, I just wanted to go into the whole tie and rim theft because it might sound petty or I don't need to hear that, man. I'll pass up on that one until you come out. And like I said, we ain't got to talk about the economy, how the gas prices and all that craziness. That's a whole nother subject. I'm going to probably get into one on that too because you know, all of a sudden the gas prices are gone up, and the formula all of a sudden for baby formula, now there's a shortage. Well, all of a sudden, you know, so a lot of times I have my own personal thoughts on that. A lot of times when there is a demand for something, you can stick those prices up higher and make more profit. And a lot of times it's not so much that it's demand for, a lot of times things fall into greed, you know, as far as greed is concerned. And I've spoken on it before as far as I'll give you an example, the camera system as far as the stop signs in Washington D.C. When that first plan was initiated, it was a safety thing, and as far as a lot of times they were placing where they had fatalities or crashes, accidents that where serious bodily harm was involved. But as the money started to come in, and if you watch the news, they got cameras that made like millions of dollars and what have you. And some people actually sued the government. I think some individuals from out of state on 295. You see that thing flashing all night. And even I received a ticket for going 11 miles over the speed limit. Now, honestly, I don't think I was going 11 miles over the speed limit. It doesn't start to flash until you're actually at 11 miles or over. I don't believe that. But I knew where the camera was. That's the crazy part of that. I know where the camera is. But 11 miles over the speed limit, I got the ticket. I think it's 25, 35. I paid it, no big deal. You can contest it, but if you can't really show any type of issues as far as it wasn't calibrated and what have you, I know a lot of times these things aren't calibrated. The machinery, as far as when you're dealing with the DC government, it isn't always maintained. And trust me, I could go further into it than that. I paid the ticket. One of the reasons they don't assess points is because they can't prove who was driving or operating the vehicle. So it's just a revenue to make money. Now, when they start placing cameras and things like that for the stop signs at the bottom, or cameras at the bottom of hills, that's not about safety. That's about making money. And you start getting to the point where you're putting the photo cameras behind trees. That's not about safety. That's about making money. And if I'm not mistaken, the mayor took it from the Metropolitan Police Department and I think Department of, I'm not sure who handles it now, but it's some government agency that handles it now because they can do things like alter the speed and change the speed and things like that. But the Metropolitan Police Department handled certain things the Metropolitan Police Department couldn't legally do. But the mayor has taken it from the hands of the Metropolitan Police Department. So You might see a camera here one day and it might be gone the next because it didn't make no money. So where they can put it in certain areas, and if you notice, they put them in certain areas. They're really in certain areas. In certain areas, they're not. You know what I mean? And let me say that again. In certain areas, these cameras are, but in some areas, they're not. And what I mean by that is there's an abundance of them in certain areas, and in certain areas, they are not. Message. I know everybody remembers that from the movie. I'm gonna get you. I forgot what it was, but Keenan Iron Wayans. But that's a message. And like I said, whenever you hear me say message, it's a message. And like I said, this is not no speculation. I know what time it is with the cameras. Obviously, I was with the Metropolitan Police Department when the photo radar camera plan was initiated. I didn't get the training. I was offered the training. I just dismissed the kind of hate I did because I missed out on a lot of training. But again, it's a revenue. So, if you can, don't get this government your money. Don't get this government your money. They talk about they don't have money to do this. They don't have money to do that. Look at the revenue that these cameras have brought in. And the thing is, I have emails and asked questions as far as to where the money goes, things like that. Just like I've emailed in reference to the violence interrupters and things of that nature. No response. Nobody can tell me where that money goes or how they spend it or what have you, and how they determine what where they put the cameras and things like that. It's a hustle. It's one of the biggest hustles that's going on. But I'm not going to hold you with all that because, like I said, that was a whole another topic of videos that I'm going to get into. And again, I am going into the mass shooting, but it's difficult to really go into it without really giving it some serious thought. Because, like I said, when I saw those caskets and characters, you know what I'm saying? Like some people, I think one of them had Minnie Mouse, and I thought about when my daughter was young and she played with the Bratz dolls and all that. Man, that would just, I can handle death, but when it comes down to children's death, that's a whole nother realm. Even the strongest will break with that. Now, I've seen a lot of death, especially with the Metropolitan Police Department, but a child's death, I haven't experienced those scenes where individuals were on drugs or did crazy stuff like years ago some individuals were smoking PCP, things of that nature, putting babies in the microwave. I didn't actually experience that, and I'm thankful that I didn't. There are some scenes that you just can't go to the next call for service and erase. That scene is one of those scenes that you just might have to take the rest of the night off if you can. Once you see a child dead, or you go to these scenes of active shooter and you see a child that's basically wounded so bad that part of the child's body is not even there. I know what a high-powered rifle can do to a body, and I know exactly what it can do to a little child's body, because it's not going to discriminate because that's a little child's body. It's going to do much more damage with that little body, and that's not a scene that you want to be on. But unfortunately, as law enforcement personnel, you've got to go to these scenes, and there's no way around it. But I am going to do a video on that and go into details how the department dropped the ball. No, I wasn't there. I'm just going by strictly what they reported. And it's reported that the chief of police didn't have a police radio. That's all I need right there. You weren't prepared as the chief of police. Now, as far as mandatory, is he mandated to have his radio with him at all times? I don't know what their policy is, but that's just common sense. Why wouldn't you have a radio with you at all times? It's just like you've relaxed. You've gotten so comfortable with the job, you just in another world. And I've seen individuals at my own district working the station. And I didn't say too much because a lot of times even police officers can get real sensitive. We had a lot of station personnel. They basically worked the station, and not to dismiss them because they had a job of processing prisoners. They had to search prisoners. They had to deal with all types of issues. But a lot of these individuals will walk to the store with a Metropolitan Police Department raid jacket on, and assume that they're going to be safe. No vest, no police radio, just walking to the store with a Metropolitan Police Department raid jacket on and a gun and badge under that. You can't call for help even if somebody just decides that, you know what, we're going to take this female's gun and everything. And a lot of times it wasn't just females. We had male officers that work the station that would do the same thing. I never said anything because a lot of times individuals are very sensitive, and even if you try to say something to help somebody, a lot of times individuals get all sensitive in their feelings, so I just left it alone. This individual's trained just like I'm trained. He knows he's supposed to have his vest on. Even in working in the station, you're still supposed to have it on. A lot of times, they give you a pass if you're in the station and you work inside. You can take that thing off, whatever. And that's cool. But if you're going outside the station to walk to a store for food that's close by, you still need to have your radio and a vest on. So I'm just going to leave that there, and I'm going to go into the mass shootings on my probably my next. I got a whole lot of things to discuss, especially the situation with DC. The violence is changing there as far as law enforcement personnel with the Metropolitan Police Department, and not just Metropolitan Police Department. All departments that are in the DMV area are losing members at a method that's so it's rapid, it's out of control. DC is now offering $6,000 for new members as far as rent assistance. Now DC has never did anything like that, and they didn't do it when I was came on board, and I could have used that $6,000. It would have went a long ways. Now $6,000 today, that's not really going anywhere. If you look at the current rates, $6,000, depending on where you're renting from in DC, that's 2 months. That's 2 months, $6,000. And the actual promotion that they're doing, it says up to $6,000. And we all know what up to $6,000 means. That means it's very, very unlikely that you're going to get $6,000. Up to $6,000. So we know how that goes. But again, I'm going to close out. I got some serious stuff coming for the video in reference to the mass shooting and the active shooter. I just have to process that because, like I said, seeing the caskets with those characters on them, those little caskets, you just don't see that every single day. You know what I'm saying? With Batman or Superman. I think the individual that created and designed these caskets donated them and did them free of charge. But to see that, man, that even hit me like a brick. And like I said, nobody I knew was involved, but it doesn't even matter. That's somebody's child. And if you have a child or if you know a child, it's got to hit hard to you too. Because think about it. In reality, you're only a scenario, and this is pretty harsh. You're only a scenario away from it happening to you. If you have a child or if you have a cousin or anything, it could easily happen. But I'm going to process the whole situation mentally. Because like I said, it did kind of get me mentally to the point where I can't really go into it right now without really just processing those caskets that are still in my mind. And sometimes you'll get a tattoo in your mind that's so heavy that you just gotta give it some time. So I don't want to speak on it right now, but I got a video that I'm going to do in reference to that, and also giving some guidance as far as to tell your children what to look out for or things of that nature. Because like I say, the news, they talk, and you got your politicians crying and for God's sakes, and Joe Biden and talking about, we've done nothing. And I'm looking like, you the president. What do you mean we've done nothing? What have you done? And all it's going, unfortunately, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. But the least I could do is gather my thoughts, give you some pointers as far as to talk to your children about what not to do, what to do if you see this or see that. Because the government and city officials, they're not talking about nothing but putting on a show, crying, screaming in Congress, for God's sakes. Yeah, this is cool, all this animated acting, but what are you going to do? Simple as that. What are you going to do? As I'm speaking right now, there's probably another one going on. And I don't want to see it happen, but the bottom line is it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop at all. And for some reason, you got your individuals that talk all this stuff, and then the next thing you know, you don't hear nothing else until the next one. And even the situation with the individuals that were killed just because they were black, you don't even hear about that no more. You don't even hear about that no more. I mean, there were people, and not to dismiss or make one more than the other, but you don't really hear about it. I looked at some of those individuals, man, some of those individuals, and not to make light of someone elderly or give them more props, but some of people's grandmothers, you went in a grocery store highly populated with black people, and you just decide, I'm going to kill all these jokers. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. But it's a lot of people that feel that same way. And all that mental, he's mental. You wasn't that mental. You will be able to process it in your mind. I don't want to go to a store that's predominantly white. I'm going to go to a store that's predominantly black. And it's my understanding in the video, the individual was, I guess, had his weapon close to someone that was white, and the individual said sorry, and I understand he had the N word. I don't have a problem with saying it, but I know some people might get offended or what have you. So I kind of play by the rules when I'm doing this because I want everybody to be able to watch my videos. I'm not doing this for likes or really doing it. The likes help, but I'm not doing it for monetary. Is what I want to say. So it doesn't matter whether I say it or not, but I try to make the videos a little more comfortable because some people just may not want to hear it. That might bother somebody, but it's my understanding the individual had the N word on the gun and all types of slurs toward black people, what have you. You're not that crazy. You're not that mental. You could determine that I'm going to go and kill all black people. That's hatred. You know what I'm saying? If you want to consider mental illness, hatred, or what have you, that's up in the air. But you had enough mindset to process, I'm not killing anybody white. I'm killing all black people. And better than that, I'm going to a black neighborhood grocery store. Better than that, I'm going to go before I do this and scope the things out. As the individual said that he had interacted with the individual. So this individual actually did intelligence, scoped the scene out and everything. So was he really that mentally off? No, I'm not buying it. And like I said, a lot of these individuals escape with the whole mental thing and what have you. You know what I'm saying? And for some reason, they always end up making it out in most cases. Some of them anyway. Message, some make it out alive. And I'll say it again, message, you know what I mean? You kill a bunch of kids like that and you come out without a scratch? Okay. I'm not going to incriminate myself and say what we would have did in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? But it would have been a little different. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to leave that one there. Kids, and it wouldn't make a difference if it was adults, what have you. But in a situation with the kids, like I said, a death is death. Whether it's your mother or whether it's a child, it hits. But when you see those little caskets, that hits you a little hard. And obviously, this is like the third or fourth time I said something about the caskets. So obviously, it's a mental tattoo in my mind of those caskets. Some things I can dismiss. I got a call for service. Somebody's dead, a parent natural, somebody older, or maybe somebody killed themselves. As crazy as it may sound, I can process that and move on to the next call for service. Yeah, a lot of times it's tragic. You got to keep your cool. You got to maintain for the family that's coming and they're going to lose it. Got to let them know it's a crime scene. Unfortunately, we can't let family in right now because whoever's not in that house when that person passes is not getting in that house. That house is deemed a crime scene until the medical examiner and the detectives come and deem that it's apparent natural. Because if it's not, if people allow it contaminates a potential crime scene. A lot of times individuals don't understand. Well, that was my mother. Why can't I go see my mother? I couldn't even go in my own brother's apartment that passed, from a heart attack. They had it, I had to stand outside like everybody else. I identified myself as a Metropolitan Police Department officer. That doesn't mean jack. I didn't try to get in. I understand the process. So I wasn't upset. Once it was deemed that my brother had a heart attack and it was unnatural, I was able to go and pay my respects before they put him in a body bag and took him away. However, I did stay on the scene until my brother's body was taken away from the morgue, the medical examiner's office. It's kind of interesting because a lot of times you think that Metropolitan Police Department also, or your co-workers, and not necessarily did I know this detective from homicide, but this individual identified myself, explained to him that's my brother, and he talked to me or what have you, but this individual, when he finished, he left. He didn't say anything to me. I had to actually, stop him and be like, hey, so are you leaving? And he explained he was leaving, and he gave me a business card. And I did email him and explain to him to not say nothing to me was extremely unprofessional. And it not so much, I would have done it even if I wasn't on the Metropolitan Police Department. You're not talking to me, you're not saying nothing. You would think that the individual knows you're a police officer in the same organization, that they would have at least extended the courtesy, hey, man, my condolences to you. None of that. He just walked away. And that's why I tell anybody, and that's why I got the video, how to make a complaint, because I don't have any cut cards. I have no alliance with the Metropolitan Police Department as far as when they're wrong. You know what I'm saying? So if it's something foul or if it's something unprofessional, I could care less whether it's the chief of police or who I know, Chief Conti, or somebody that I don't know. The bottom line is wrong, right is right. And that was very unprofessional of the individual to walk past the detective and not really say anything to me. So I emailed him, he apologized and what have you. But these things often occur. You don't get professional service a lot of times from individuals, especially when they're doing this night in and night out. It's a homicide apparent natural, however, it's not foul play, but you do it so often. A lot of times you're no longer you no longer have any sensitivity to it, and you can't be like that because that's somebody's loved one. Now, because I can handle the fact that my brother had passed, I gotta grieve like anybody else, but this ain't the time. I need to find out if my brother was somebody saw him, was a foul play, what have you. So I got to keep myself together for my mother at the time who was living, and for my brother's wife at the time who did not come to the scene of that. I didn't want her there. You know, one of his friends notified me that they couldn't get in his apartment. Once they did get in, they found him on the floor. He had just recently passed. He hadn't been in there long. It looked like he was getting ready to make something to eat, and he collapsed. However, this detective showed me no professionalism, and it's not just in that situation. I've had some issues with other law enforcement agencies and with the Metropolitan Police Department. You can't assume anybody is going to treat you with respect simply because you're within the same occupation. I tell anyone, if you are disrespected as far as unprofessionalism in some form of business or interaction with a law enforcement agency or any agency, do something about it. Don't just sit there and be like, well, you know, I ain't going to do nothing. I ain't going to make no complaint. That's why I put the video up how to make a complaint against police officers if, you know, people are unsure or a little bit nervous about doing it. I have no alliance to anything as far as that's concerned when it's foul. Okay, I'm going to get up out of here. I'm going to leave that one where it is. Again, I'm going into the mass shootings. Just got to process that whole situation. But yes, the police department did drop the ball. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be real honest with you. I don't want this to happen in Washington, D.C. And we might be playing this video back again. But honestly, right now, the Metropolitan Police Department is not prepared. It's not prepared. Now, a lot of people active or what have you might say, oh man, you just saying that because you've retired. And no, they're not prepared. Number one, they're not prepared for something like this because the manpower is extremely low. They are begging for applicants. No matter what you do, mayor wants to hire more police officers all of a sudden. Of course, election is coming up. You know, and of course you want to play by the books now to get those votes, but it's not going to help now. You can't put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. It's just too late. The city is bleeding out with crime right now. So the Band-Aid of hiring a couple of more hundred officers or whatever she's trying to do is pointless. It sounds good. The cadets and all the cadets in the background and what have you, when she did the little press conference, I call it political pep rallies. It looks good for photo ops. You got the chief, which I understand he got to play by the rules because obviously he got to keep a job. Some things I get, but on the same note, come on now. You cadets, I don't even want to even talk about the cadets. They just arrested the cadet for robbery. And you can Google it. I haven't read the whole. It's my understanding that the individual was going to purchase some Jordans or purchase some tennis shoes, some high-end tennis shoes maybe, and met the individual, and I believe it was gunplay involved, and it robbed the individual, and I believe the individual was so stupid that they used a Facebook account, and after the robbery, deleted the account, and then after a period of time went on, they brought the account back up. How dumb can you be? That's about as stupid as some of these youngsters taking pictures with guns and stacks of money and things like that, going Facebook Live, and you're in a certain area with a handgun or assault rifle. Come on, man. That's, like I said, that's a whole nother topic, and I'm gonna get into that. Now, I just have no tolerance for stupidity. You know what I'm saying? If you make mistakes in life, but to actually, commit a robbery, use Facebook to meet the individual, and then delete the account, and then bring the account back up, or the individual, like I said, I could just go into it further, but I'm not going to go into it. I'm gonna go into that video about the whole gun situation, and we'll take it from there. But again, I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna close out. The Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C. is not prepared, and I'm being honest. I don't want to see nothing like this happen in D.C. It's already happened for the most part, just up on Connecticut Avenue. However, I don't want to see it really go down in Washington, D.C. like it could, because the Metropolitan Police Department is not prepared, especially with the manpower, especially with the training. Yes, you have individuals trained with AR-15s, and a lot of them do carry them in their daily patrols, but they're not prepared. It's a whole different story from going to the Metropolitan Police Department, Flexi, and shooting that AR-15 versus you hearing that real high-powered rifle in a building, and you know that this is not a training scenario. You got to go in there. And in that situation with the recent one with the children, they hesitated. They didn't go in. You may not want to go in, but you chose the job. You took the oath. Unfortunately, you may not come out. This is not one of those jobs where you sit behind a computer unless you're an admin. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not throwing a slap at them, or maybe I am. But unless you are actively assigned to admin, and even those people that are assigned members of admin, they get pulled. In a mass shooting, everybody's coming out the office. We need the manpower. Put your uniform, your full uniform on, not your administrative belt and your shirt and what have you like that. Because some people in admin have on polo shirts and things like that, no vest, which is understandable. You sit behind a computer all day, I get it. But these individuals, when it comes down to it's hitting the fan, they have no clue and they hesitate. And that's what happened. He had a whole group of individual officers. They were scared to go in my opinion. Now, I wasn't there, but I've seen the fear in some officers that are trained with AR-15s and things like this. I've been on scenes with some officers with the Metropolitan Police Department were actually scared. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with being scared if that's your thing. But on the same note, you got to try to control that fear and do your job, because you took the oath to risk your life and go in that building if deemed necessary. Now, for the most part, a lot of people think, oh, that's never going to happen, or I'll never get shot. It's a 50-50 chance every time you put that uniform on. And now in Washington, D.C. and the DMV, it's a 50-50 chance if you come out the house, you might get shot. I don't have to tell you about the scenario where they just showed the youngins jump out of the van and fired the individuals, and all the kids were sitting on the curb. They don't care. That could be your kid. So the mass shootings don't necessarily happen like they happen in Texas or what have you. They happen right in Maryland. You know, these individuals, broad daylight, they could care less about PG County. And PG County is in the same dilemma that Metropolitan Police Department. They don't have no officers. None. Thin. They thin as paper. And it's not getting no better because a lot of people are not choosing law enforcement for occupation. And I can't say I can't blame them, because it's not worth it. If you're going to go out there and try to do the job, and the first thing you're going to do, you got a chief on TV. Well, I ain't going to say all chiefs, because some chiefs don't say nothing. They'll just say, well, you know, right now it's under investigation. I can't comment on it right now. But you got some chiefs that's going to say, well, you know what? The officers overreacted. And I'm like, overreacted? Dude had a gun, a loaded gun on him, and he wouldn't pull his hands in front of him. So what the officer supposed to do? Just be like, excuse me, sir, can you please just take the gun out? You know, it's just, like I said, it gets frustrating sometimes to see the political nonsense from high-ranking members, especially at the Metropolitan Police Department, that have no clue, you know. But again, I'm going to go and give that some thought, what I just said in reference to Washington, D.C., because they're not prepared. And honestly, I don't want to see it happen, but I would not be surprised to see a situation like Texas and Washington, D.C. I don't want to see it happen. I'm just being brutally honest. I don't have no ties or alliance with the Metropolitan Police Department. I just happen to have done it for 29 years and retired and made it to retirement in one piece. But I'm going to be brutally honest with you. They're not prepared and they're not ready. And I would not be surprised. I don't want to see it happen. I would not be surprised at some point we have a situation in D.C. I'm gone. That video is coming for the shooting in reference to the mass shootings and things like that. But I really wanted to get the tire and rim theft video out there, because somebody watching this video is going to have their tires and rims by simply doing what I said do. Get the wheel locks and put your keys in an area where somebody's just not going to find them. Because they're not going to spend a whole night rummaging through your vehicle when they can go to another vehicle that doesn't have wheel locks at all. They're not going to do that. But don't make it easy for them. Look, I'm gone. Like, subscribe, share my videos. I'm not doing this for no money. That's not my thing. I'm just doing it to give back. I could easily just sit and chill and do nothing as far as these videos, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give back because at some point, somebody gave me something to be where I'm at, and that's what it's all about. All right? Like, share, subscribe. I'm gone.